and welcome back. Bonjour et bienvenue for another episode at Live at Moon. Blah, I am so sorry about that. I hope you're all doing well, and today, as promised, we have another exciting guest. Actually, I am really excited about today's guest because I've been wanting to have a sit down with him since I've started here at Moon, and I'm very proud to introduce Costa Koulisakis. Did I get that right? I got that right? All right, I got it right. It's Costa Koulisakis. He is our director of the Moon training program here at Moon. Hi, Costa. Thank you so much for coming. I have been looking forward to sitting down with you. I feel like I'm really excited right now.
Thank you, Devin. Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, this is great. So basically, today's episode, we're going to learn a lot about you, Costa. We're going to learn about the training program. We're going to talk about some of the shows we've done and all that. So we're going to just dive right in already. And let's learn more about you. Costa, what are your grassroots in this industry? Because I'm sure you got some great stories. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, it all started a very long time ago. Before I even joined this industry, I became a fanatic about sound reproduction. I was a young teenager, probably 13 years old at the time. And I learned how to build my own loudspeakers. I later learned how to design my own analog circuits. I tinkered a lot with amplifiers, repaired some, modified others, all in the spirit of pursuing that elusive goal of perfect sound, which obviously does not exist even today. And designed and built many loudspeakers, as I had said a moment ago. But I got my first break in this industry 32 years ago in 1989. Where I started to work part-time in a high-end audio retail store here in Montreal, which was an absolute joy for me because here I am now in a retail shop, working as a salesperson and having access to all of these great products, all these exciting brands, many of which I had heard of already, others which were totally new to me. So there was a learning experience, of course. And all that put me through my college years and my university years as well. Upon graduating from university, I left the retail scene and I joined one of the then two high-end audio product manufacturers that existed here in Montreal. Of course, one of those two is Simaudio, but that's not the one I'm referring to, right? Not yet, anyways. I'm referring to the other one, which is a very iconic brand, and I'm sure many of our viewers probably know of it, Class A Audio.
Okay.
I joined Class A. I was in my early 20s, and I worked as an inside sales person. I got to connect and meet a lot of retailers and distributors, of course, back then. We're talking early, mid-90s. The communication was obviously done by telephone and by fax back in the day, unless you traveled.
Now, a fax is something we used to use before the internet.
That's right. That's right. And I was at Class A for 2 years, and I learned an awful lot, obviously. After Class A, I went back to retail and worked for, in fact, back to the same high-end audio shop that I was working at before. This time as a store manager.
Okay.
I managed that business for a small number of years. After which I once again left the retail scene and went into distribution. I joined an audio distributor that was based right here in Montreal. And that went great. I learned a lot as a distributor as well. Information and experience that I put to good use now because when I worked as a distributor, I obviously got to see the side of the business from their perspective. So I got a better understanding of their challenges, the challenges that they face, and how to be competitive and successful in this business from their perspective. But after that, I joined Simaudio, and I've been doing that ever since. Never left again.
So it's funny that I can actually relate with you about retail. It's like every time you get out, it seems to drag you back in.
Yes, absolutely.
But you're here with us today, which is awesome. And speaking about beginning with Simaudio, that leads us to our next question. How long actually have you been with Moon Simaudio? Like your starting time here with the company?
22 years ago,
22
actually,
years, wow.
and it wasn't a sudden change of job, let's say. When I worked in retail, we were at the time an authorized retailer of the Celeste brand, which was our brand that we manufactured here at Simaudio.
What year
back
was
in the day.
what years around this?
Early
last-
90s.
Early 90s? Okay.
Yeah, and the Celeste brand was manufactured from 1990 until sometime in 1998.
Okay.
And we were a Simaudio Celeste dealer. So being an authorized retailer of that brand, I got to know the founder, of course, of our company, Victor Sima. I also got to know Jean Poulin, who was the gentleman that purchased the company from Victor back in the early 1990s. So when I joined Simaudio 22 years ago, I already knew the owner. So I kind of naturally fit right in.
You still keep in touch with Mr.
Oh, with both of them.
Both of them.
Absolutely. We still do keep in touch with the founder. We still do keep in touch with Jean Poulin as well. Yeah, and they're both very proud of how the company has changed and expanded and grown over the years.
I've said this a lot. All the best stuff comes out of the 80s. Close enough, but
Yes.
yeah. So 22 years. Wow, that's incredible. And what was your first exact role when you first started here at Moon?
My initial role was several roles, actually, because as you can imagine, 22 years ago, Simaudio was a much, much smaller company than it is today. And like any small company with a smaller number of people, everybody wears multiple hats. Everybody does different things, and I was no exception. You could say my primary responsibilities were focused around general management and sales management and all of that, and I did that. But as the company grew, my position began to become more tightly focused towards certain things. And today, of course, I oversee the Moon training program, which did not exist back then at all.
So basically, when you started at Moon, you brought basically your experiences back from the retail and the other distributions. You brought your experiences to Moon, and then that's pretty much where you started your career here with that. So it's like like you said, mix of hats,
Exactly.
different roles. But no, that's really good because having all that experience is definitely a plus, and it's a great asset to have.
I did draw on it quite a bit. I still do today.
You do very well what you do. I know that for a fact, Costa.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, you mentioned the Moon training program. Everyone obviously knows what product training is and regular trainings, but there's something special about the Moon training program because I actually do watch all your presentations you give online. I actually do follow. I keep myself silent in the background just so I don't interrupt the partners, but I enjoy watching what you do because I learn a lot too. But let's elaborate a little more for the audience. Like, what exactly is the Moon training program?
Well, the Moon training program is first and foremost much more than just a product training program. When we instituted the program originally, the general idea of it was obviously to train our retail partners and our distribution partners, retailers and distributors. And as we started to do that, we expanded on the different things that we can teach. It wasn't just limited to product. It goes far beyond product. And it continues to evolve and morph depending on the needs that we see that the marketplace is lacking. So we've tried to fulfill that. We try to empower all of our retailers and distributors with the necessary information to be more successful with our brand.
Exactly. We were actually having a conversation earlier, the differences between, like, saying sales reps who come to stores and they're also giving partial trainings, but their initial roles is to sell and all that. What you do is something very different. I've actually had those roles where I had multiple hats also. I was the sales rep, but also the sales trainer. But there was something missing in both. It's kind of like two overlapping, I found. But what you do is very unique. And
well, I'll tell you, there's a little bit more background to it. When I worked in retail, one of the things that I had noticed was that there was a market lack of training from the vast majority of the manufacturers that
Yeah.
we represented. And most of the lack of training was concentrated amongst the high-end audio product manufacturers.
really?
The more mass market brands offered some kind of regular ongoing training, which was obviously appreciated and definitely put to good use. But with the high-end audio product manufacturers, it was largely absent. There was certainly no regular program from none of the brands that we represented. So we had to rely on, and remember back then there was no internet.
Yeah.
So we had to rely on product sheets, phone calls, magazine reviews, and of course on-hand experience with the product to teach ourselves how it works, what products it best pairs with, the do's and don'ts of every product, because every product has its unique set of attributes. So in order to maximize its performance, you got to use it perhaps a certain way. And that takes experience, trial and error, experimentation to really hone in on those skills for every brand. And what I had found was that in doing that, at the end of the day, I ended up knowing more about certain products than the actual salespeople that sold them to us.
Yep.
And that also, again, it enlightened me into the idea that there's a lack of training in our industry. So fast forward now here to Simaudio, the whole idea of creating the Moon Training Program is to address that need. Now, I also, as a sideline, always wanted to be a teacher. So given that desire as well, which I had kind of put out the pasture because thinking, my involvement in Simaudio is just getting in deeper and deeper over the years, I'll never teach. But given that there is this need in our industry, I figured, you know what, I could teach at the same time, and I could teach everything that I know about all things Moon, basically. And coming full circle, it goes far deeper than just the product.
You definitely give off the teacher vibes. I do feel that.
Okay.
And
Glad
your training programs are really good. And people, if you ever get a chance to see one of Costa's training programs, if we have any partners watching, I encourage you to join in. They are fantastic. Your training program too, basically we have started, your grassroots were here, but it's actually brought you elsewhere. It's brought you abroad, we can say. You've done some travels. Like, where has this brought you?
Well, it's evolved, like I said. The training program has evolved over the several years that it's existed. And as I already said, it goes far beyond the product. It's an opportunity for us here at Simaudio to communicate not just information about the product. Information about the product one can find on our website. If you need a spec sheet, you can obviously find that information. If you want to know if a product has a certain feature or whatever, that information is relatively easy to find. But what about the brand behind the product, the people that make the product,
yes.
the design philosophy, our story, our history? All of that is offered in the Moon Training Program in the various courses that I give to our retailers and to our distributors, so that in learning more about us, when our brand is introduced to a customer for the first time, it's not just a superficial box with lights and knobs. It's a whole story behind it that legitimizes the product, that makes it more credible through the history of the company that manufactured it. A lot of people don't know that we've been around for 42 years, for example. A lot of people don't know that our products have a 10-year warranty. A lot of people don't know that our definition of the word performance goes well beyond the traditional definition of just sound quality. For a lot of people, performance is sound quality first and foremost. And there's nothing wrong with that definition. But what we convey as a message here at Simaudio is that performance is a comprehensive definition of many different elements. It's sound quality, it's build quality, it's reliability, it's aesthetic appeal, it's functionality, it's pride of ownership. All of these things put together define performance of the Moon brand. And I've always felt that if performance meant anything less than all of that, you're shortchanging the customer. It's one thing to buy a product at brand X that sounds great, it's fantastic. But if that's all the product gives you, and somewhere down the road it falls short in other areas. Maybe the product is not very reliable. Maybe the company behind it doesn't give the right level of service that one would expect. Maybe the product is a very poor resale value. Maybe the product cannot be upgraded. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen, obviously. Well, then it falls short in those aspects of performance. So our definition of performance encompasses all of that. Nothing is more important, perhaps one can say, than sound quality. But I also want to stress that of all the different aspects of performance that I have described, no single one predicates on another, meaning that you can optimize all of those aspects of performance and give the best possible value to the customer. A product that basically satisfies the customer's needs entirely. It looks good, it has all the right features, it sounds great, it's reliable, it's got a 10-year warranty, made in Canada. For those that aspect may be very important. You know, it just pushes, it ticks all the boxes. All of that defines performance.
And you know what tops the cake? Your passion and love for this industry.
Thank you.
I really feel it. I have goosebumps right now.
Thank you.
But yeah, but also what I love what you do is, obviously we were in a pandemic and a lot of them were done like virtually and so forth. But prior to pandemic, you had a personal touch. You would actually go out and visit these partners and these distributors personally and deliver the training program on site and all that too, correct?
Yeah, and the high-end audio industry in general thrives and heavily relies on interpersonal relationships. You know, in the world of consumer electronics, high-end audio is unfortunately just a drop of water in that bucket. Okay. It's a very small subset of the whole consumer electronics world. And in our industry, generally, for the most part, everybody knows everybody. You know, so those relationships become very important, you know, in terms of sharing information, in terms of doing shows together, in terms of doing special events together, whatever it may be, you know, collaborations and so on and so forth. So getting out there and meeting people and seeing people again in the flesh, just as we did at the Munich show a couple of weeks ago, was just a sigh of relief. You know, it's great, it's fine and dandy and great to be able to communicate via platforms like Zoom and Skype and Teams and all of those.
It's just not the same.
And those platforms were really exploited to their max during the pandemic, which is great, because if we didn't have those, God knows how much worse it would have been. But they are not a permanent substitute for getting out there and meeting people. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you know, Moon, our company, it's a collection of people, it's a culture, and the best way to communicate that is in person. There's only so far you can go through a Zoom call or a podcast, or, you know, even the way I'm speaking right now.
Yeah.
But being there in person and giving a demonstration or enthusiastically talking about a product, it's on another level. It's a little bit like a hockey game. It's one thing to watch it on TV, and it's a totally different thing to be there in the arena and experiencing it for real.
Well, I'm sure that our viewers are definitely feeling your passion right now, even from afar, because this is fantastic stuff. Actually, you brought up a good point too. You mentioned Munich. Now with the pandemic kind of like shifting its focus and things starting to reopen, shows started coming back. You mentioned Munich. There's other forms of we have trade shows and festivals. You want to throw in a little bit of a difference between the shows?
Well, there's so many shows every year. I mean, now with the pandemic, let's look forward optimistically and hope that we're putting the pandemic behind us. And in a certain amount of time, all the shows will restart up again and all of that. But there's so many shows that it is impossible, of course, to do them all. Yeah. We can't, you know, even attending them all, let alone exhibiting at them. But we do the most important ones. Munich is by far and large the most important high-end show in our industry. It is also one of the most expensive ones to exhibit at, but it's definitely worth it. It's a show that is both in size and attendance unmatched by any other. And it is also more than just a traditional audio show. It's a trade show mixed with a general audio show. And I want to stress the difference here. What we define as a trade show is a show that is strictly for retailers and distributors to attend. In other words, B2B relationships.
Okay.
Munich is both. It's both half of the show time, 2 of the 4 days, are dedicated to trade only, while the remaining 2 days are open to the general public, as well as trade. So it gives us a chance to meet everyone, and during those first 2 days, it's really strictly the business relationships more than anything else. And then the latter 2 days, obviously there's some business in there too, but we get to meet consumers, enthusiasts. We get to really have, let's say, even more fun. Because it's more about playing the music and talking about music and answering questions, whereas of course the B2B part is really more business minded, which is fun and great as well. But my point is, we get to do everything at the Munich High-End Show, and it's the most important show of the year. Besides Munich, there's also other shows that I can tell you we exhibit at. There's a local show here every year called the Montreal Audio Fest. Like Munich, it was canceled the last couple of years back due to the pandemic, but it was restarted up again this year in March, and we exhibited at it. And it's not unlike Munich, you could say, but on a much smaller scale. And it is a general consumer audio show, which means the entire show duration is open to everyone. We get to connect with customers again, a lot of enthusiastic customers, of course, meet them in person, play music, answer their questions, talk music, talk gear, whatever they like, just how can I say it? Just excite them,
Exactly.
exactly.
Actually,
That's what it's
mentioning
all about.
that, because we actually got to sit down. We did a little, like a few-minute segment with one of the founders of the Montreal show when we were there. Actually, we did a little interview with her too. The excitement was there. People were so happy to be back. And it was crowded.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
It was great. There's the Toronto Audio Fest, which is owned and operated by the same folks as the Montreal Audio Fest.
That's coming up in October, actually.
That's right. Yeah. There's a show that sadly does not exist anymore, which is called the Rocky Mountain Audio Fest. That one has been discontinued, probably due to the pandemic, permanently discontinued, which is kind of sad. And there's a whole host of others. Yeah. There's also shows that are overseas. We participate in some of them, others we don't. It depends on all kinds of reasons, things sometimes that are unpredictable. But there's a fantastic show in Poland every year, audio show. There's multiple ones in the Netherlands. There's a few in the United Kingdom, of course. There's a big one in Hong Kong. There's another in Australia. There's one in Thailand. There's one in Japan.
And Exponent in Chicago.
And there's Exponent in Chicago as well. And the list goes on and on and on.
They are cool.
Yeah, they are.
And
absolutely.
basically, I've had the pleasure of being at some of these shows, and the stuff we see there, you see all kinds of audio equipment. But what's cool is you really feel the culture in there. Everyone there is for like the love of the sound and the music.
Yeah, it's
just great.
Music.
And my personal favorite, as you already found out, is the vinyl collectors. I'm a big vinyl guy. It's like,
actually, so am I.
Cool.
Yes.
But seeing the vinyl dealers too, and then all that stuff, it's just great. It is really something that I would highly recommend anyone to experience, and definitely come visit us when we're at one of these shows if we are able to be there. So back to the training program. Where can people learn more about where they can get information? I know you mentioned the site, but let's just elaborate a little more.
Well, the website is a powerful tool.
Yes.
Obviously, it gives you a lot of factual information on our product. The styling of the site and some other stuff that's mentioned on the website tells you a little bit about our company, our history. As I said before, we've been around for 42 years. That's a long time. So there's definitely a whole story to tell. Our 10-year warranty, which is well known and respected around the world, which is included with which applies to all of our products. The fact that all of our electronic products are made in Canada, right here in our own factory here in Montreal, that speaks volumes as well. But in terms of resources, yes, there's the website, but there's always our retailers and distributors that we train. They are the best ambassadors, besides, of course, our own people inside here at Simaudio, which are our most powerful resource. Our partners are equally important, and we train them so that they have that deep level understanding about our brand, our culture, our history, so that they are ready to communicate that to anyone.
And they all share the same passion as you do too, which is fantastic. It really is a tight-knit community. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And but I'm speechless. But there's one thing I need to know, and I think a lot of us are curious too, because we're talking about how our love of like the industry, the culture, and all that. One question I like asking people is, "What's your go-to music? What is Costa's genre of music?"
Oh boy. Okay, that's
I've heard some of the albums we've played, and
Well, listen, I like quite a variety of music
Mhm.
actually. Classical and rock and roll would be my preferences, but um, I am Greek, and
Okay.
my upbringing is although I've grown up here in Canada. I've grown up in a Greek family, so Greek music is part of my music collection as well, particularly from my region of Greece. But really classical and rock and roll. I'm a rock and roll guy.
awesome. Actually, so am I. But
Great.
we won't get into much about Greek history. But
No,
as you probably
that's
know,
fine.
the Greeks did invent a lot of the first instruments,
Yeah, that's
like
true.
the guitar. Costa, believe it or not, we're already coming to an end of our show.
Oh, okay.
Time flies when we're having
Time went
fun.
by really fast.
It goes by fast when we're having fun.
Absolutely.
And I just have to say thank you again for being with us today, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's just great work. I love the enthusiasm. I love the passion. I love this stuff that you bring to people, the culture, just to society in general. It's just fantastic stuff.
Well, we can't do what we do for the support that we get from all of our partners and from all of the enthusiasm that is fed back to us from owners of Moon products and audio enthusiasts in general. So,
And to our viewers too.
Absolutely.
Like everyone
Absolutely.
watching too. We thank you all. And so again, if you to find out the nearest retailer or partner in your area, you can always visit our website at simaudio.com. It will show you all the retailer locations in your area of country, actually, because we're kind of all over the place. It's great. So again, Costa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
I look
Dylan.
forward to doing this again with you down the road, and find some more stuff to talk about, and we'll just keep doing what we do.
That's great.
And until then, we will be back again around the end of this month where we have a really special guest coming. I am super excited for this one. I don't want to give any spoilers, but if you're a Montreal local, you'll know who this person is, and I cannot wait. Maybe we'll give some hints down the road. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and keep on listening.